There we go. Oh wait, that is the wrong string or screen. We want this one. There we go. Oh, joy. So I am continuing the trend of using a headset that is worse for virtual monitors, by downgrading to a Quest. I'm trying to like motion with my hands here. By downgrading to a Quest Pro, which has the benefit for the viewers of full face tracking, which is like really, really, really nice. I like it. But the screens are like 10-15% worse than a Quest 3, which is very annoying. So I'm actually like scaling the This is the first time I've scaled up a display for a VR headset, just because like I could not see text in the Quest Pro. Like the Quest 3 was pushing it. The Quest Pro, we got to scale the text, but I really like the face tracking, so we're using the headset purely for the face tracking. It was very fun. I guess this makes me like a VTuber now or something. It is kind of squinty though, when like the eyes are lopsided eyes. But it's good. All right. So, what are we doing today? It has been a hot minute since I've actually streamed anything, and I haven't really gotten a lot done since the last time I streamed anything. So, to kind of recap, have I broken anything? Does this still compile? I have broken things. Ray pointer get. Wait, unstable library feature. Did I like upgrade rest or something? Memory module, self-transmute. This compiled just fine before. This must be a, that must be a new error. Why did you choose Rust to make BraneScript? Was it because of the enums? So I was originally going with C++. It's because of what the thing that I kept coming back to was that LLVM is written in C++. So I was like, oh, I need the best compatibility with C++. But then the library CraneLift reached like a level of maturity that I was comfortable using it, and it's a lot more convenient to compile CraneLift than it is LLVM. So at least partially it's that like I had the option of switching off of C++, but then the other side of it is I really enjoy Rust as a language. Enums are part of it. Like I want this language runtime to be solid, and Rust helps me write more solid code, which is really nice. But yeah, most of it is Rust is the most ergonomic language I've ever used, except when you're trying to write async stuff, basically. Async multi-threading with Rust is kind of a pain, and the error messages are terrible. But that has not reached into this project. It's reached into basically every other Rust project that I've written, and it's trying to reach itself into the project right now because there's a couple different things that I have the option of working on right now. So, last time, what we got working was function call signatures, which this is kind of part of unstable library feature. Why is this unstable now? Yeah, we got function calls working, which opens us up to actually move forward with a lot of stuff. Right, we want to look at runtime, core, memory. Then what line? 40. Here we go. This is new. I did just put this in here. As pointer, array pointer get. Oh, okay. So since function bindings is a pointer, I guess I don't need to cast it to a pointer. And that's what's going on here. I decided that function bindings should be a non-owned thing shared by a bunch of different... Every single bindings context or execution context should have a reference to the same function table. That's what's going on there. Let's see, does this compile now? One argument is missing. Okay. Wait, is this an error for the new function? Oh, I actually added a function argument there. Yes, this does not need to be mutable. Yes. Okay. Arug check. There we go. Okay, so I can actually show you that if we run this with... Actually, we can just cargo... What is the thing for tests? Just cargo test? Linking failed. What do you mean linking failed? A wall of text. Linky logo failed. Unexpected PDB error. I guess we'll just rebuild from scratch then. What I wanted to show you guys was that we got function calls working on basically every single operating system, and well, not on basically every operating system. We got it working on Windows and Linux, and the Linux build works on 64-bit Linux and also on, well, x86 64 Linux and Arch 64 Linux. So specifically those two operating systems. And if I go to wherever the actual tests are here, you can see that the function pointers are literally just a regular function pointer written in the regular way that you would write a Rust function. And you would see I'm even able to pass Rust enums natively in and out of these function calls. which is like huge developer experience. Developer experience win. Rust feels like it's harder to get running on obscure platforms than something like C or C++. That's one of the downsides for me. Understandable. Yeah. I'm only trying to do basically like VR headsets and then the major OSs, so I don't have to worry about like embedded hardware or not. I know Rust can be used for embedded, but I probably would lean towards C or one of the other C likes for embedded software. Just because I would be slightly worried about stuff like ref cell overhead, for example. Because Rust does kind of fight you when you get into like, not necessarily unsafe, but like manual mode. Yes, I've gone full VTuber. It is quite fun. It is quite fun. Yeah. Now, did this run? No, we have a linker error again. Limit. Ah. Does this mean we have too many symbols in our PDB? Yes, this is a Quest Pro stream, so we have the face tracking. I've actually been looking forward to looking forward to streaming with this headset. I just haven't really had the time or energy. Yes. Maybe if we add Rust. So it's literally undebuggable. Wait. Oh no, that's a different error. Limit. And it added in the 12 by itself. But let's add that in and see if it gives us better. I guess we'll try this out. By ensuring your build system clears alt PDB in its clean step, deleting the alt PDB prior to final linking. If added, add PDB. Can I just say Rust allow larger PDB files? Wonder if I just copy paste this, does it magically fix it? Okay, which could not compile Brane CLI. Okay, so it's just the CLI. And something about adding like the 5 objects I've added since messing around with this broke things. We'll see this. I already tried cargo clean. It didn't work. Googling instead of ChatGPTing his own behavior. I still read from the Google AI overview, so it's the same thing. Exit code 1 from that limit. So, actually, let's check if this PDB page size got added in. No results. Means it did not get added in to either this wall or this wall. Target thumb 7 and none. Yeah. These don't look like MSVC args. But I'm trying to concentrate on writing my language. I can't write my language and nerd out about coding languages at the same time, because the nerding out would be too distracting. Especially when it's doing stuff like linker errors. Rust docs have a way of passing linker arguments? Maybe. Rust pass MSVC arguments. I guess we could try this, but with the just want to see if this works. They have to be... I guess I could do it in a build. Add this linker arg in a build file. When it is MSVC. You as well. What? Where did my windows go? It just disappeared my windows. Give me back my displays. Steam! This is the first time Steam has let me down. Where's my other controller? There's... What's here? You resize it. This the dev reacts to Arthur. No. We are not mentioning Somnium Space in this stream. It is not worth our time. I won't even give the other person you kind of acts like that dude the dignity of even being mentioned either. Okay, we'll see when the hand tracking realizes that it can work. There. It's thinking about it. Yeah. This is the linker arg we want to pass. Are these only Rust flags? Via the C flag. If we do cargo test -c linker arg equals this. Maybe we do need to do this, but that's like... I saw an unused... It said unused... Unused manifest key. Ah, that's in the cargo toml. It's like, oh yeah, we're not gonna use this. Yeah. Not gonna use the linker key. I want this to be a config that's part of the project, right? I wish I knew. Just by exit code. Unexpected PDB error limit. These aren't Rust answers. This the dev reacts to Minecraft clone in VR with Grinnell. No, it is not. Okay, so that's why. Oh wait, it requires the headset being leaning towards that side, but it's not getting leaning toward that side. It's getting pulled towards the. This might be it. Here. Oh, Did I just rust up upgrade? I wasn't getting this issue before. How goes the brain? The build that was working before isn't working. Something about PDB, like the debug info file being too large when we're trying to generate it. But other than that, we're basically working on the design and infrastructure of the language, like how it executes, rather than just trying to get it to execute, which is like the majority of what we've been doing for the past, I want to say 6 months, ever since I started working on this version of the language. And that means that, like, it's getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And it's been a hot minute since I was working on the language, so I'm like slightly lost of what to do. But once I get to the point where like I can show stream like, hey, look, the tests run and complete, and our function calling conventions that I want to show off do in fact work. Then we're most likely going to move on to fleshing out the actual runtime of BraneScript, because at the moment, what we have is this thing called BraneScript CLI, and what BraneScript CLI is it's whatever I need it to be to test out what I'm currently trying to test out. So it's just an hard-coded at the moment to run one function, hard-coded to allocate one page of memory. I can pass it an argument that is what file should you load, but it's like there's not a runtime there. There's not really a useful CLI there either. It's just kind of it's like it's a test project. It's like a project importing the BraneScript code runtime to test it. But there is no runtime at the moment. It's just kind of like a compiler library. So what I want to do is I want to slowly add in the actual runtime parts of the language, and I believe the first part of that should be writing a job system. And yes, we're just straight up ripping off the Unity job system concept of units of work you need to do are called jobs, and you can order what jobs need other jobs to complete and all of that fun stuff. Now, one thing I've been debating for a little bit as well is I came up with this idea for single write components, basically. So like a component graph system instead of an entity component system. And if you look up component graph system, the only thing you'll find is one Rust project that completely misunderstands how ECS works to begin with. So yeah, anyways, let's see. Here it is. Here's my dev update where I talked about component graph systems. Basically, the idea was that a component can only be mutated once per frame. We declare in the component itself what other components it needs data from, and the component can also reference itself for if it needs previous data of itself from, if it needs previous data from itself, like from the last frame, it can declare that as well, pass that into the update step. But the really important bit is for other components, it can declare if it wants pre or post mutation data, because like a huge problem I run into in like, this is the main problem I run into in like engines like Unity, is a variable throughout the course of a frame holds different values, and those different values in my mind are different variables and should be treated as such. The main one I like to give is position. Now, your position is affected by an animation system. After it's affected by an animation system, it might be affected by an IK system. And then after it's affected by the IK system, if you're like in VR, that might then also be affected by like a interaction system, like posing fingers or whatnot. And that's very time dependent. That's very like, order of operations can make or break that. So for me, like, what variable is and when is very important, especially because we're trying to do implicit multi-threading. So a coder will write BraneScript, and then they won't have to interact with any native threading constructs. It'll just kind of like, they'll write what they want to happen, and it will when it can. And I wanted to come up with a like core data structure and like paradigm that makes it really easy to do that. And this idea of a component only being mutated once per frame makes it easy to do that, because like if you're referencing the output of that component, you know exactly what you're getting, and there won't be any like, oh no, I accidentally sampled from the animation part of the frame for my interaction system instead of after the IK system, and then like I wasn't able to grab the object because I thought my hand was down by my side instead of reaching out, as the IK system then updates the value to be. Yeah. So this is kind of like a solution for those sorts of problems. This whole like data structure. But what this also solves is, since the components have to declare what other components they're referencing, we can, at runtime or compile time, create a graph of every single component and figure out what the flow of data is if we have circular data dependencies, and we could even pre-schedule like our threading and job system with that. But the thing I really couldn't decide was like, is this a part of BraneEngine or is this a part of BraneScript? Because I know I want to use a component graph system, and I like strongly suspect that this idea of component graph systems will be significantly more ergonomic than any other system that I've worked with so far. Especially because like I'm doing a lot of Unity ECS work right now, and there is no developer experience for that. You have to write so much boilerplate. And then like also Unity ECS is like super unclear about like when stuff runs and whatnot, and you have to explicitly declare like this system runs after this system, and if you don't explicitly declare when systems run, stuff might like completely blow up. Whereas I'm like, hey, I should just declare data dependencies and then have it self-schedule. Because, like, that's the only thing I, as a programmer, care about, is, like, what's the flow of my data? And everything else can be derived from that. Like, if I just describe the flow of my data, everything else should be derived from that. And could be. So, also, if you haven't noticed, something that follows this system is essentially a pure functional coding language, but with black boxes that can be not use the functional coding paradigm, because the greater system is using like a functional coding paradigm of input data, black box, output data, but the black box can't affect anything outside of the black box. And that is really, really easy to multi-thread. But I finally, like, I had to go on a walk to decide this. Like an entire, I mean, a mile isn't that long, but I had to walk around the large block in the neighborhood to figure this out. But I think component graph system, this whole concept, originally I was like, no, I don't want to make this core to BraneScript, because I want people to just be able to use the language as like a loose like C clone or C++ clone, or slightly Rust coded just scripting language that they can use anywhere. But just because I want multi-threading to be super core to BraneScript, and I already had the concept, was planning to put the concept of pipelines into BraneScript, which are like those scheduled by the runtime of the language, declaring the steps of the program, like async stuff. I was already like deciding to have this in here. Will BraneEngine be in Rust or C++? So currently what's hosted in the repository that I haven't touched for a hot minute, because I've just been working on BraneScript, currently it's all in C++. But I do plan on having the core, like, BraneEngine stuff be in Rust. It's been long enough since I've written that C++ stuff that it already needs, like, a full rewrite. I've learned a ton since I've written all of that. So full rewrite of the engine is coming regardless of what language we use for the actual rewrite. But I want the majority of, like, as much as possible of BraneEngine to be written in BraneScript, and then whatever isn't of the engine isn't written in BraneScript will be written in Rust for greater compatibility with the BraneScript runtime. Yeah. Anyways, getting back to this, I finally decided that I do want the component graph system to be a core part of BraneScript, because it is also, like, it's a paradigm for how to schedule stuff, and how, like, data flows through. It's, like, it's kind of a core feature, and I'm, like, loosely also considering replacing the concept of pipelines with the concept of components. So instead of writing a pipeline, you would write a component, and then you would use components to to basically define, I don't want to use the word query, but if you've ever used a query system, like a query library, you'll have a good idea of what I'm talking about. Like Rust has like a salsa library. I think that's the name of it. And is there OpenXR bindings for Rust? There are. And I actually know the people who made them, so I can complain and do PRs and stuff if I need to. Yeah, there's actually a pretty strong like XR like bevy community, and they have tried to recruit me multiple times and are continuing to do so, and they will try to recruit me multiple times more. But they do have like some generic like OpenXR bindings that are pretty good. And I've messed around with them, like playing around with like bevy stuff and whatnot. So I know that OpenXR is actually going to be one of the easier parts of this. Like once I get BraneScript like actually working, like the rest of the engine is going to actually follow pretty quickly, relatively fast. Because BraneScript, the coding language from scratch is the bottleneck. If I had just gone with Lua, I would be multiple years into having a working engine at this point. Also, why is my eye? There we go. Yeah, if I'm like doing this constantly, that's a glitch. I'm not constantly doing this constantly. I think I'm not doing that constantly. Then there's Vulkan, unless you're using a different graphics API. Yeah, I'm the current C++ version already uses Vulkan. It's the plan. I'm not really planning on supporting any Apple hardware at the moment. So like I didn't even implement the function call convention for Apple. Yes, Apple has its own function calling convention. Because they need to be special. But I mean, I guess Windows also did it, so like they also did, yeah, you know. Like if Apple gets more like gaming support for their virtual reality devices, then yeah, sure, we'll implement the Apple AArch64 function calling convention and port the engine to it, and probably use like one of those Vulkan to metal layers. But for the moment, it's just the plan is like Vulkan. Vulkan only. One graphics API to rule them all. Because Apple should support Vulkan to begin with. But yeah, anyways, long story short, we're probably going to try to get component graph systems working in BraneScript. It is probably replacing the concept of pipelines. And it's going to be the core of like how our scheduling system works and all of that. Because I think the main thing that pushed me to that decision was I was trying to figure out how the scheduling system would work. Like, how are we going to schedule what pipelines to run when? And since if we implement CJS, we will have to explicitly define a graph and have a well-defined way for defining that graph of components, then, or like that query. I don't know if I want to call it query. Query is kind of, I don't know what the word query sparks in other coders' minds, but I don't like the idea of saying like, oh, everything in BraneScript is a query. You're building queries, like a database, with cached results in the tree, and that sounds... I don't know. I'll decide on what to call it, but for now, like, we'll call it a query because that's what it is. But you build a query out of a graph of components, and we can do both static and dynamic validation on that graph and do runtime changes to that graph. And our scheduling system is able to just directly read the graph to figure out, oh, this is exactly how I should schedule things, is in this graph. And working Lexer, I use an enum for the tokens. Yeah. Lexers in Rust, like Lexers and parsers in Rust are amazing. Yeah, let me... I can show you real quickly what I'm doing for my parser. So the AST is different structures, but for different... When there are options, this is the same type of pattern that the Rust compiler itself uses, and I kind of yoinked it. But basically you have type kinds, and then you usually have like a type of grammatical construct, and then you use kind enums to differentiate between, like, this is a native type, or this is a pointer, or this is a slice, but all of them are types. And I found that to be like a very easy way to work with them. And then the parser I'm using is, or the parser builder is Chomsky, and I believe they also have Lexers with Chomsky, because you can use the same thing for both. I don't see my Lexer anywhere, which is not concerning at all. Maybe did I like bake it in? Where did I put my Lexer? Maybe I called it no, emitter is my error message reporting system. Did I put it in lib? I put it in lib. Okay. Yeah, so here's our Lexer here. You can see it's just super clean. Lexer is just destruct with peek and consume. I mean, that works. Works really well. But look at that rustism. That is very, very rusty code. You probably have much better debugging messages in your code base, because this gives me error messages that tell me that something's wrong, and then I have to poke it with a stick until it's not wrong anymore. Hey, this worked. When we manually run it with linker args. Actually, no. We ran Rust update, which means it did not work. We just updated Rust. Wait, I just saw Gimli, which is a library for doing dwarf debug info in the build tree. So I guess, does CraneLift interface with Gimli? That'd be pretty cool. Process didn't exit successfully. Oh wait, what? Apparently new Rust version. Find error in brain core. Or main RS? No, IR mod RS. Wait, did I accidentally change something? Fix 7.7. Yeah. I don't know why that code was working before, but this just a... What is this? Type string? So this is trying to return a string. And this is inside a format, which means... Yeah, returning a string is fine there. That will work. Like my LSP is running. One previous error. This is in 646. Go. Let's do the same thing here because it looks like this is another format. Then that should be fine. It is super interesting that the Rust update detected that as an error. I mean, I can see that, like, in C++ that would be an error, but a lot of times it let me do it in Rust. And I thought it was just, like, smart, you know? And, like, put the initializer for the thing outside of where it needed to be referenced. Did magic, basically. Okay, so now we're getting that linker error again. I wonder if I compiled this at a slight optimization level. Wait, I can turn off integer overflow. Oh. Let's throw on opt level 1. Wonder if this affects up dependencies. Not affecting much of anything. Much better than standard variant. Oh, so much better than standard variant. It's like, yes, C++. It's cool that you implemented enums in C++, but like it's unusable because like the developer experience of writing it is terrible. Oh. I know there's a way to do it because Bevy in their example have a way to do this for packages. Yes, profile dev. Or maybe just package. Profile dev package. Opt level 1. This will slightly optimize our libraries, which means we'll have slightly less debug. Why did it not do anything? Why? Profile dev package opt level? Maybe 2? And no, it's not. Profiles for the non-root package will be ignored. Specifically, profiles at the workspace root. Okay. Okay, I know for sure that, like, this is the thing, but it says profiles for the non-root package will be ignored. Specify profiles at the workspace root. Oh. So I have to go here. Profiles dev package optimization level. What? Wait. Well, actually, this will be fine. I need to get a better headpad for the Quest Pro. Because it is currently nuking my forehead. We're only 1 hour in. It's like... it's a more comfortable headset than the Vision Pro for a shorter amount of time than you can wear total the Vision Pro. Like, the Vision Pro is just, like, baseline uncomfortable. Like, really uncomfortable. Whereas this, it's like, it's fine, and then your forehead starts telling you, like, hey, there is no blood flow underneath the headpad. I'm just gonna, like, give it a little bit of rest here. Okay, is that working? I guess it took a little bit to... where's my hand? There we go. Still has the PDB error. Oh, and verbose isn't being passed to the linker, so I am not passing it to this. But let's check if linker arg is not getting passed. So we'll build script it. I hope... Well, actually, this is the only executable in the project, so we're good for now. If this compiles, anything can compile, because it's the only thing that compiles. This works. Well, actually, I don't know if it works, because we haven't run it yet. I wanted to be doing work, not solving linker errors. One of the reasons I switched to Rust, because it seemed to have a much better build experience than C++, because I didn't have to deal with linker errors. Look. Oh. It's sending the thing. It's actually a linker arg now, but it's not working. Put itself to sleep. No, I bet. But that's a valid size, right? Ah, scroll. Wait, this is for testing. I'm trying to run tests. I don't really care if tests probably leaking or not. $141 object files omitted. That's a lot of object files. Does cargo build work? Dang it, nothing's working. What did I do to change it? I added like 3 more files. I think I added... Well, memory was already there. Job wasn't already there. I did update Visual Studio recently. Maybe that's it? Here. What if... What if I deleted... Or not deleted. What if I downloaded the new JavaScript slop version of Visual Studio? Actually, the reason... The version I have is already JavaScript slop, but... Why not? It uses the version of Visual... use the version from Visual Studio. We'll see how long this takes, but I feel like maybe updating the linker will help us, even though updating the linker did not help us before. Development proceed. No. No. I do not want Azure and AI development. You might want game development with Unity. Embedded development, maybe. But I'm gonna say no for now. We just want Unity support in case I open this up with the Unity editor. And desktop development C++. Let's... Now let's see how long this takes. If it does anything at all. There's something weird like my C drive being out of space. Like, I know it was getting low, but I don't think it was out of space. This isn't low enough for my program to fail to compile, right? Like, this has still got 30 gigs on it. I don't have to delete a game yet. But this can't be installed, okay. You know what, why not? Let's clear up space on my C drive and see if that fixes stuff. Can I clear up space? No. I don't see any games that are like large. Where'd it go large? Yeah, those were large. Or on my C drive, apparently. Let's see. That's not on my C drive. Alright, we're taking out. Winderstat C drive go. taking a lot longer than it should, in my opinion. Because usually it's pretty fast. And now I know everybody else is like, oh, use Nerd Tree. I don't think, or not Nerd Tree, Wiz Tree. Maybe I will use it, because this is being slow. Wait, no. I want the 64-bit version. Okay, fine, yeah, that was a lot faster. Let's figure out what I can delete. Ubuntu's pretty large. Headset battery low. It is plugged in right now. What do you mean headset battery low? Apparently it is not plugged in, even though, like, I specifically plugged this in so that I could stream with it for a long time. Why is headset? The same power strip my internet is connected to, so if my internet's powered, then headset should be powered too. And I've used that charger to charge this headset before, so I know it works. But yep. No charging the headset, apparently. Well, I guess I'll switch over to the Quest then. Instead of the headset with hand tracking and face tracking, and well, Quest has hand tracking, but I wanted the face tracking headset, you know? But no, the face tracking headset has to run out of battery. While plugged in. That is the same power block. That is the same power block that plugged into my plugged in. Yeah, it's the same power block my router's plugged into. can switch over to camera, but I don't have a second computer for chat or anything. That said, though, the Quest 3 is a much more comfortable headset. You do need to stay in VR, though, for the double monitor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see chat, or I need to keep chat on the screen, which is suboptimal. So let's see. Does it charge this headset? No, the power brick doesn't charge this headset either. Interesting. Maybe it is the charger. Oh yeah, the USB-C was like super loose. Okay, now the charging cable is working. And now my headset, or not my headset, my forehead is screaming, pleading with me, going, please put back on the Quest Pro, but I'm gonna go put back on the Quest Pro now that the charging cable is working, so that I can have all the face tracking stuff. Okay, yep, that is charging. Now I have to boot up the headset because I turned it off. You can connect to Wi-Fi. There you go. Alright, now let's see if my Steam VR instance will reconnect. I think it will, because it has in the past. Where are my controllers? They're on the charging pad. They aren't where I put them on the table over there. I will need the controllers if I need to reset up. It was pretty crap. Oh, there they are. I might put them over there. Am I hiding them from myself? Okay. Now, finally. Restarting Steam VR. Or not Steam VR, Steam Link. There we go. Okay, that actually did work. Now the VR camera is in like this-ish angle. The tree in frame, because we like having the tree in frame. Then we need to move the monitors so they are actually in front of me. There we go. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but now we can return to the stream, where we are solving technical difficulties that I didn't have before. Why did I hit a linker error? So the link is getting PDB page size. MSVC link exe limit 12 error. Here's the Microsoft documentation. Encountered an unexpected error when opening, reading, or writing to a PDB file. This error is produced for uncommon issues in PDB files. Amazing. The cause and details represent the information available to the linker when the failure occurred. Is this empty, like, two regular ticks and then a weird symbol? Because the source of this error is uncommon, there's only generic device available for resolving this issue. Perform a clean operation in your build directories, and then do a full build of your solution, which we've already done. Reboot your computer, check for stray or unresponsive process, kill them in Task Manager. Turn off antivirus checks in your project directory. I guess we can check for the MSPD or DBSRV exe. Is the CF. Oh, I do kind of want that. If using multiple process, which I do also kind of want to do, so let's throw those in there. Link arg multiple process, link arg z fast. Try building using the 64-bit hosted toolset. I don't know if I can tell Rust to do that. Serialize MSPDB. In services? Sort by name. Chuggin. There we go. A, B, C, D, M. There we go. Why do I have Edge? Is this because I opened Edge once? Maybe it's in services? MSPDB. Oh, MSPDB SRB. I wish there was a Control F. I wonder if it shows up under Windows processes. Oh well. In any case, maybe those two options do something. Nope. Unrecognized option MP ignored. Unrecognized option ZF also ignored. With MS build, okay. What if we do a manual clean of our project? Manual clean complete. Why did I have to get a generic linker error? It's like, that's ridiculous. I've now been stuck on the linker error for like an hour. But like I can't do anything because my program won't compile. Alright, how long do it take? Please, please just build, please. Yeah, it's supposed to have details in between those tick marks, and it doesn't have details between the tick marks. I did update MSVC recently. Maybe it's that. Just modify this, not actually like full download. Individual components. Link. MSVC 17, 2022. What if we just download this? Don't want to remove out of support components, because the out of support components is literally my operating system. Now let's see if this actually runs, because before it didn't. Did I actually clear out space on my C drive? Don't think I did. Oh, wait, I just have only one Unity editor installed, so it's not that. Maybe that depends if you can the C drive. What do you mean if I can the C drive? I did not put more space on there. Well, there's a little bit more free space now. Oh, there we go. It's downloaded. So it is actually doing stuff now. So today I have a big screen beyond 2. Congratulations! That is an amazing headset. You get the 2E or just the base headset? Just 2. It's still a really good headset. Yeah. With regards to audio management, yeah, if you're coming from the index just like, yeah, nothing is as good as the index when it comes to audio management. Okay, so now we choose what version of MSVC. Automatically uses the latest installed version. So this is MSVC 14.44, blah, 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 blah. So we'll put this in a notepad. I think I just installed a newer version, which I think the problem was that I installed a newer version, but let's see if... Let's see if it uses a newer version. Just discovering how much I depend on being able to see out of my headset while it's on. Do you mean like pass-through, or audio being part of how you see? Because like, for me, I feel blind when I don't have audio. Mostly in games, though. Let's see, did this use a different version of MSVC? It did not, even though we just installed what I believed was a newer version of MSVC. The nose gap? Oh, yeah. Okay, like, I love having just literally a uncommon error that's supposed to have a description. There is no error. Not mad about it at all. This is the latest version. It says in parentheses, latest. Well, what's the difference between V143 latest and V130? 143, 143, C++, x64 build tools latest. Okay, so this is the, no, x64 build tools latest. Okay, so this is the libraries here. So what if I downgrade so I'm not on 40, well, no, wait, 43 tools, 43 build tools. Yeah, when I eventually mess around at the big screen, I'm really looking forward to, like, the strap with, like, the flip-up visor. I feel like that's going to be really nice. So this might be a newer version. Well, $43. What's the difference between these? -5 megabytes. How is this -5 megabytes? Because I unclick stuff? Oh, it still uses the same linker. I need to go test on the Resonite, but then I learned that Resonite is just slow. It is just a little bit unperformant. is really, really cool what people pull off in that game. But it's like I don't, well, I guess I don't have a super up-to-date computer anymore, but like it used to be like a NASA computer. Go to cargo config, linker LD link exe. That's fun. Yeah, we'll see. It's one of the reasons why, instead of like even Luajit, which like Luajit is pretty fast. That's why I'm taking the time to write like my own language runtime. Though you get fun stuff like this. You get unknown linker errors. Yeah, we're just gonna run this on Linux for the remainder of the stream, because, like, why not? It could be 5 frames per second, it could be. Watch as Linux works the first time. This is my sign to switch to Linux over Windows. Because I bet you, if I built this on a different computer, it would just work. Toolchain Ghosts, this source of all my misery in older compiled languages. Half the reason I switched to Rust was because I didn't have to deal with the toolchain anymore. I'm dealing with the toolchain still. And he's doing weird things. Usually it don't do weird things. Usually it's just fine. There's a VR chat pop-up behind my monitors and I can't see it. But it doesn't move my head, so I guess I'll just have to, like, live with that weird pop-up that isn't properly stereoscopic? I just don't see enough of it for it to actually be... Yeah. I've just been procrastinating. Like, I fully intend to switch to Linux instead of Windows 11. There we go, look at that. All tests pass. Look at that. Function calls work, and all of that fun stuff. Okay, which example script do I currently have? Which example script do I currently have the CLI set up to run? The loop functions. Okay, example scripts, just loop. Apparently, Brane backend wasn't even included in it. Maybe setting my dependencies to be optimized wasn't... Well, no, this is just linking, not compiling, so... Hello. Bye. Please. Please. Just do things so I can get on with my day and start coding 2 hours into the stream. No such file or directory, okay. Let me actually double check what I named my example scripts. Well, there is loop bscript. Did I name it example? EXAMPLESCRI. Oh, it's because I'm in CLI. That would explain it. Rewriting a language before? I am currently writing a language. That is what we're doing in this stream. It just took me 2 hours to figure out why the random linker error that I started getting. Well, actually, I didn't figure it out. I just switched to using Linux to compile my stuff instead of Windows. But this is what the language looks like. I don't have syntax highlighting it for it set up yet, but it's kind of like a loose mix between C++ and Rust. Leans a little bit more towards a Rust style syntax, but there's no borrow checker, but there is Rust style enums. So yeah, little bit of mashed together stuff, but the idea is that it's an embeddable language, so super fast. Main panicked. Not yet implemented. What do you mean not yet implemented? This file is run before. Recently shown Odin language. Odin's an interesting one. I haven't used it yet, but it's fun to listen to its creator talk about stuff. Which file am I looking for? I'll eat this one. Back in crane lift source librs 216. Alec. Okay. Yeah, because I removed the placeholder here because I wanted to actually implement allocations. I was also considering making Alec not a native, not an actual instruction, but instead having it be a function import. I will need the good luck. Do you have a repo? Yes. So all of my repos are under I believe it's Brane Reality for the Brane project. So this one's BraneScript. So it's Brain Reality BraneScript, and I have a link to my GitHub in the description, which I think on my profile I link to the engine and the scripting language. So this is what we're working on right now, is this. So I guess we won't be able to test the loops, because the loops, I have like a placeholder alloc, and yeah. Would be able to do test BraneScript, but not loop. Wait, did I implement constructors for things? Apparently I did, and it's implicitly calling alloc. That's cool. I forgot, it's been a hot minute since I've looked at this code. Okay, so it's another thing that I could do right now, which is, since I'm slightly at a loss of what to do next with the language, because there's so many different directions I could go in, or different things to implement. There's so many different things to implement, and all the different things kind of interact with each other. One thing that I'm thinking about is a lot of embeddable scripting languages have a CLI, and with that CLI, you're able to just interact with the runtime through like a command line prompt, basically. And I think it would be really fun to make one of those. Like Python? Yeah, like Python or Elixir or Lua. Lua less so, I guess, but kind of like a test command line where I can say, hey, load this module, link to this module, unload this module. I can test different functionalities of the language without actually having to hard code something or test it in the engine or all that stuff. So, yeah, let's do that. So instead of this, what we need to do is do your subcommands. I know this isn't the name of the stream at all, but like, now that I'm thinking about it more and more, having an actual command line interface for BraneScript would be amazing for everything that I'm trying to do right now. So we're going to do that. I also have the idea that I would absolutely love to be able to run code just in the command line, like be able to write code and then run it in the command line, which I can do because I have an entire compiler here. And the compiler is supposed to be able to support runtime loading stuff. So, like, I should be able to do that, you know? Yeah. How do I want to do this? Do I want to go custom parser? Yeah, I've just been hard coding stuff so far. And what I really want to do is actually implement the runtime, because right now I'm like emulating all of the runtime except for running functions, basically. Does GrainLift use a similar IR to LLVM? A little bit. The way that they do basic blocks is very different. LLVM uses phi nodes, right? GrainLift doesn't use phi nodes. They use block arguments, which serve the same purpose, but they're a little bit easier for people to understand. But you can abstract block arguments as phi nodes. So, yeah. Documenting... Sorry, the words are very small for me on that screen, kind of like squished together because headset screen. Documenting Pictron is what I'm reading. User data API and being able to run code directly in the terminal has made it really easy to test certain edge case behaviors. Yes. That's what I'm thinking too, and if like I want to test something, I can just add it as a command line, whatever, and then be able to run it. Testing velocity. Yeah, so we're going to not have any direct command line arguments, but we're going to say loop like this. Equals standard IO standard in and I just read line? Yes. And I don't like just loops while let input there we go. So this shall be our run loop, and then this is the update. This is the info from our thing. Now, I remember having to do some weird workarounds to get clapped parse stuff in the past. I'm gonna say let command equals CLI as clap parser.
Oh wait, I can just print that, and then we're good. I create expander for. I didn't change anything about it. Iterator into iterator item t item equal t equal into os string. Oh, arguments. I had to manually parse. Console input. That's what I had to do last time I used this. I guess, well, I can just decide on my own parsing system then. Splits it up by spaces unless it's in quotes, and then it does the entire crow, yeah. But then you also have to account for escape characters and all that fun stuff. Probably the kind of like the resin smell, isn't it? Okay, so screw it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna vibe code. Right. A Rust function that takes, that splits a, what type is this? That is a usize. Ah, I see. Needs to take an immutable string buffer. Joy. This is the best way to do this. Okay, it does allocate. It looks like it does allocate now. Mutable. So by default, all variables in Rust are immutable, unchangeable. You have to manually specify what variables you're going to be changing. Why is this error now? It was fine before. Find value buffer in this scope? Oh, it's because there's a placeholder value. So we want to parse from say let components equal a function that splits a Rust string into an iterable structure. I'm just gonna say a vec. Into a vec of OS strings using the same rules as the Unix console. That should be clear enough, right? We'll get something. Rust does not provide this. Yes, this is correct. This is why I asked you to write it. It appears it has written a state machine for me. And it also appears that it forgot to... OpenAI's, wait a second. So, look at this. So the backslash escaping worked here, but not here. The AI platform vibe coded their own vibe coding, and they did it wrong. Their formatter broken. So we're gonna say split. I'm gonna call this split args. It does not appear there's anything wrong with this backslash escape sequence. So here we're gonna say parse from let components equal split args input as a reference. Let args parse from args. Nice. And we should do try parse from. That way, we can match on this. And then if this is error, we can say failed to parse args. Or actually, let's just print out the error. And rate otherwise okay. You just return the value. Let's work. Actually, no, we don't want to break, we want to continue. Then we want to turn this into a bunch of different subcommands. What did I delete up here that broke it? Was it the importing of parser? No. Drive parser command. Version long about. Yeah, and we need to use this syntax for the parser, because we also have our parser, which we also call parser. Ah, this is fun. So there's not actually any problems with the derived macro. It's only the LSP that has problems with it. Okay, so now see, and now I need a runtime so I can actually do commands for the runtime. So let's do match command find, I guess, is what we'll name the variable. Subcommands, my favorite feature of clap. And then this is going to be right subcommand. And then in here, we're going to have exit as, of course, our first option. Build. No. There we go. Time to restart Vim. So I've already typed the command to exit Vim, but it is very frozen. Please, I don't want to have to clear my shada. There we go. Restore session. This is not the session that I just left. Actually, since it failed to restore the session last time, it turned it off. So, CLI main. Yay, my LSP is working again. Tuple enums are not supported. Tuple enums. Oh, okay. I get it. It wants this. Okay, so when we build, we want file. I'm just gonna have this print intermediate representation. This will both build Can I just have my main command as a subcommand? So I think build a module to a file. Will be the source for the module. This will be took me until now to realize this entire UI is on a character grid. It is, because it's in a console. This is Vim, by the way. Come on. Fix your... There we go. Run source. We're gonna explain this as statements to execute. Just run code statements, and this is what we're going to implement first, because this is fun. It's running Vim in Windows PowerShell. Because we have to do the most... I don't know. I get so many comments on using PowerShell. Kind of funny. Okay, so on exit, we're just gonna do great. Then on command run, what we're gonna do is kind of fun. We're going to since I don't have an actual language runtime yet that's like persistent or anything, which is what I want to work on, what we're gonna do is let's create a compile context that is persistent outside of the loop. This should be part of our runtime. Well, actually, no, our compile context shouldn't be part of our runtime. because the compiler creates IR. The stuff for managing IR should be part of our runtime, but not the compiler context. Data run 2, we had to address some issues with our file selection dialog. Learned that for the umpteenth time that Unity sucks. True and factual. It's not actually possible to open a file selection dialog without either locking up the main thread or causing Unity to error because it's subscribed to something that isn't guaranteed to be on the main thread. That thing gets triggered when the file dialog is opened. Fun. Actually, I'm gonna just copy all of this up until here. So we're going to emit module. Do I have custom? Implemented custom. I have implemented custom. So I can do actually, here's what we can do. Let user code is what we'll call this. Context add. Context sources. Add custom. Nothing for now. Then here, what we're gonna do is source manager, context sources, update custom, and the key we're gonna put in is user code. Does this consume the URI? No, it wants a reference to it. Good. Then we're gonna put in our source code. Actually, no. We're gonna format this source code. This is the fun part. Let's use the native CLI to open up a separate process. Oof. Okay, so here we're going to do function, user function, then the source code. This is how you escape curly braces inside format statements. You just double them. And this... Dang it. How do I return output from this? Guess I would have to JIT it differently based on... JIT it based on what the return value is. Like what... What return value are we expecting? Return this. Here we return. Will just be user module. I'm just unwrap this. It's basically guaranteed. The JIT backend should be, this should be persistent. As well, this is basically, this should be contained within a runtime. For now, we don't have a runtime. So we're just raw calling the compilation functions. Hmm. You have an issue that I'm just gonna say that this is run a statement, not statements plural. I'm completely blind. Where did I define this? There it is. Run an expression. Dang it, I don't have any way know what this is returning ahead of time. I think that will work with the option and then the string. Because this will just... yeah. This should work. Might not. Fully expecting that to maybe panic. I'm gonna let source equal match on return type. If this is sum and then first we're gonna map this to the lowercase. This is a none case, then we just do this. We compile the expression in a function that just, runs it. Otherwise, it would be a lot easier. Oh, no, then I need to do like load module. Then I would need a lot of... This is going to be work. But I was here thinking that, like, it'd be super easy to just, like, compile expressions, right? No, it turns out there's, like... we're gonna need formatters for the different return types, and different calling conventions, and all that fun stuff. It'd be a lot easier if we were just able to call a function from a module. Like, a lot easier. So we're gonna make run. Prefer run, but call is more accurate. So we are going to call a function. The content of this function is going to be... Actually, first... we need the module we're calling it from. Then we need the function name. This is a lot easier to work with. No longer do we have to ask the user for input on what the return type is. Here, we're going to just do let moot modules map bring map module module get finalized function context emit IR module. We JIT this. The crane lift backend returns a JIT module. Okay. Oh, right. I went C++ brain there for a second. So no longer do we need here this, putting this in load. No, we want this. That. And this isolates Yeah, this should technically be a function, but we're just lambdaing it to like a standalone function. But this should be... I was saying we should make this a standalone function, but I'll only get context if we're using a lambda or closure. But now our like shortcut operator is scoped to here, and it won't break out of our infinite input loop. So we're good. This is complaining about JIT module because Brane CLI doesn't know... Well, actually, no, it does. It does know about JIT modules, but only... If I just do everything implicitly, I don't need to explicitly define it. Why is the function map? I'm just gonna copy this tuple. No, I'm not gonna copy the tuple. Course name. Load to name. Okay, so we're loading a module with this name. And then we insert name unwrap or default into. Find value function map in this scope, not found in the scope. Right. This is just printing out functions. Actually, we're gonna do this module as option. Ooh. Not really a way to tell this between. So we're gonna have this have a name. The name we're going to give it is... Get short line. You can specify what module a function is in, but you don't need to. So we're going to as ref or so now function equals get finalized function map get function. We're gonna pull the same OK or from here. We need to get finalized function. function map. Is this function ID? Module 0 get function name. Okay, so now is when the runtime would need metadata about the actual construction of the function. Like what type it uses, all that fun stuff. Like, well, what types of inputs, what types of outputs. Which all of that is stored in its intermediate representation. Yes, is the runtime in charge of that? Guess we would keep the intermediate representation around, and we would probably want to pair that with the module, like, as its source. And then we could pull reflection metadata from the source, I believe. Yeah. Then we just have to do giant match statements on everything and I think we would actually we would only need match statements for formatting the output. And the output formatting would require using the runtime. Guess we are just doing a runtime level. A lot of runtime reflection here required. But, okay, so what my plan for this is, so we get the finalized function, and then we'll just create a source document, that user source document, and then we'll use that to compile out a module. And then we'll just call a predefined function in that module that will give us description of. I need like a string data type for this. Actually, a ton of work that goes into this, because we need to be able to display string output of the actual data of structures. But we actually need to get that data of structures, which means, I guess one of the options we could do is just to pass a page of memory into the function and then assign the function to that. Or to assign the result of the function to that array of memory that we pass into the function. Or we pass a pointer . No. Okay, I got it. So we have the function return a pointer to the result. So for this to work, we're going to need to have allocation working. Now, we can use the CLI to test every single one of the steps on that path. You can use the CLI to test allocation of memory. We can use the CLI to test printing out variables, allocating variables, all of this stuff. We can use the CLI until we're able to load a module to the CLI and call a function. And then once we're able to call a function from the CLI, we should also be able to we're able to load function. We should then be able to move on to writing components, which will be replacing pipelines. I think I've decided that. Now, the structure of how you write a component it'll basically be the same. there will be like multiple async steps. Or will there? Is there any point at which a component, in the way that I've kind of thought about them working, is there any point at which a component needs to stop synchronous execution? If we go with them being pure functional, declaring all of their data dependencies, and all of those data dependencies being available when they execute, then a component is essentially just a function with a little bit of extra metadata of how that function is called, basically. Yeah. Actually, that's going to make it a lot easier to schedule stuff if I just completely ditch the idea of pipeline stages and then only go with components, and then you comprise queries out of components, and then you can call queries, and it all just works. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Now, it's been 3 hours. I'm a little bit hungry. And my head hurts. So, I'm going to stop the stream here. And then I might work on this a little bit more. I'll probably work on it a little bit tomorrow as well. Because I'm excited about... This CLI gives me, like, a goal that I can figure out. It's not like, get the language working. It's like, no, we're going to get useful CLI commands working. And then if I have a bunch of useful CLI commands working, I also have stuff to show off at CES, which will be very fun. Alright. This was a good stream. Even if 2 hours of it was just trying to fix a linker error, which is dumb. But yeah. I'm gonna start... Actually, no, I'm not going to commit to anything. I would like to start streaming more consistently. I'm not going to commit to anything because if I do, I will let people down. But streaming is fun. I need to do it more often again. And my intention is to do that. So, we will see if I actually do that. But